This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. With the rise of Christian nationalism and Christo-fascism in the United States on the march, we have several Republicans who are outwardly, openly, vociferously announcing their allegiance to the concept of Christian nationalism. And in this environment that we now have in the United States, we don't need any help from Democrats espousing this nonsense, advocating for this nonsense, bucking against the constitutional prohibition against Congress making a law establishing a national religion, which is the Establishment Clause, the First Amendment of the Constitution. Eric Adams did just this the other day at a prayer breakfast and an interfaith thing. And listen, it is one thing if you are religious, if you are a Christian, if you are a Jew, if you are a Muslim. It's one thing to hold personal faith beliefs. It's another thing entirely to be in a position of political power and try to put those beliefs onto the people you represent because of whatever particular faith flavor that you adhere to. And that is just what Eric Adams did. I'm not a fan of Eric Adams. I think he is arrogant. I think he's a man who doesn't want to be questioned. I think, obviously, he was a member of the NYPD, which is largely a jackbooted fascist organization that has usurped the rights of millions of Americans over the course of its long and storied history. You may disagree with me on those cases, but the facts are on my side. Stop and frisk is a wildly unconstitutional measure that was taken on for years and years and years, violating the rights of innocent people in the pursuit of maybe finding a gun or two on someone who's acting outside of the color of law. But you don't get to just widespread decide to stop and frisk everybody because there may be some criminals. That's not how our Constitution and our protections work. I have the right to be unmolested by the government. I have the right to not be detained if I'm doing nothing wrong, if you have no probable cause. Now, I wouldn't have anything to worry about this. I'm going a little far afield here. I wouldn't have anything to fear from this policy in New York City because I'm a white man. This was the usurpation of constitutional rights of black and brown people, largely men, in New York City. Anyway, Eric Adams, I'm going to play a video here, two videos here. One where he's just kind of speaking disdainfully about the concept of the separation of church and state. He actually says, don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body. Church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body and the body dies. It's a clumsy, stupid metaphor. I'm not even going to address that, but here's the clip. And then there's another one where it really goes off the rails about taking prayer out of schools and the damage that did. First, let's start with this church and state one.
We are destroying our next generation. Destroying them. And we say over and over again, we need to build a world that's better for our children. No, we need to build children that's better for our world. And we have to be honest about that. And it means instilling in them some level of faith and belief. Ingrid was so right. Don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies. I can't separate my belief because I'm an elected official. When I walk with God. When I talk with God. When I put policies in place, I put them in with a God-like approach to them. That's who I am. And I was that when I was that third grader and I'm going to be that when I leave government. I am still a child of God and will always be a child of God, and I won't apologize about being a child of God. It is not going to happen. And we need to stand up for that. That is what has happened. We need to be that every day. And watching Pastor Rodriguez, you can just watch her and see God. And we need to ask ourselves, do people see God in us?
Almost all of that is okay with me. And it should be okay with you. If he wants to, when he walks with God. When he talks with God. If he wants to talk about parents raising their children in a way that adheres with their faith tradition, he thinks that that'll make them better. That's fine. That's all personal. But when it comes to governance, when it comes to him putting policies in place that mirror his faith tradition, that don't align with my faith tradition, or the citizens of New York, the residents of the city of New York, then it's a problem. Then it violates the United States Constitution and the First Amendment that you don't make an official religion. And you would think Eric Adams, someone who adheres to the Constitution, or presumably, ostensibly is supposed to, he would understand that. He took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. He was a cop who should understand the Constitution when having power over regular citizens who don't have the power of arrest, who don't carry a weapon, and are able to compel compliance. Listen, we don't need this from Democrats. We already got it from fascist Republicans. Unless, indeed, Eric Adams still adheres to fascistic mindsets, being a cop. Here's the second clip that I think is even more egregious because, one, it either points to that he's a stupid man that just fundamentally doesn't understand what his job is and what the constrictions on police power and government power are, or he really believes it, which is even more dangerous. Watch this.
If we are bringing our best fight in the ring, we would not have homeless in this city. We would not have a crisis of domestic violence. We would not have children, because when we took prayers out of schools, guns came into schools.
All right. Is Eric Adams contending that prior to prayer being outlawed in schools, that there was no domestic violence? That there was no homeless in this country? I mean, the saying of the correlation doesn't equal causation is in play here. Domestic violence has existed since there have been couples. Homelessness has been a thing since there have been homes. It has no correlation whatsoever with prayer in schools. There have been mass shootings for as long as there's been schools in the United States. I mean, they go back decades and decades and decades and decades, far before the 1960s, which is the time period Eric Adams is talking about right now. It's just stupidity. And I don't know if it's pandering, because Eric Adams loves to pander to an audience. When he was running for mayor of New York City, he told a largely Jewish city that he was going to retire in Israel because it's just so beautiful there. Eric Adams going to retire in Israel, buy some land, settle down in Israel. It's pandering nonsense. And I believe either this is which is bad enough, or he really believes it and really does want to rule his city as a theocrat, as a religious autocrat. This is Christo-fascism. It's dangerous, and we don't need to see it from a Democrat. Shame on you, Eric Adams. One more reason that you are a turd of a mayor. I'm sure I'm going to get pushback. I'm sure there's many of you out there who really like this guy. I'd like to know why. Tell me how I'm wrong. 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I do want to hear from you. Follow me on social media. You can tell me how wrong I am there as well. @Dollemore, just about everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @Dollemore. And if you are someone who appreciates what I do, even if you disagree, please consider supporting my work. You can become a channel member by clicking the join button below, or you can click on over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast and help support my work that I believe, and I believe you believe too, is important. Help produce the content. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.